Hey guys, what's up? So this week I'm gonna be talking about Japan and more specifically just samurais and katanas, mostly the katana. I think this would probably be a pretty common one to talk about. I think Japanese history is a very popular subject. I haven't seen the threads yet, but I would just assume. But if not, I love Japanese history, love Japan, love their culture, love samurais, love their weaponry. I have a weird thing about like it is by far my favorite nation to talk about. It's what got me into history, it's what got me into video games, and I've loved it from a very young child. I thought samurais were the coolest thing in the world. So yeah, once I saw that we can talk about Japan, and once I saw we're talking about samurais, I was like, yep, this is the topic for me. So my source is going to be history.com, or the history website. I use that for like literally almost everything. I watched videos, watched one about katanas, one about Japanese history, one about samurais, and I also read on their website about katanas and samurais. So pretty much all my information coming from there, and then I'd say about maybe 10% from the source that the school provides. So anyways, start off just a little small backstory on Japan, or at least why we're going into samurais. I already knew a lot of this going into it, so it was fun to refine my memory and then learn some new things about it too, which I definitely didn't know everything, obviously, and I love to learn about Japan. So this was by far the easiest and most fun topic yet. But anyways, so they had the emperor. He ruled for a bit. Then we had samurai. Samurais were originally recruited, I guess, or made, because at the time the capital was all defended, right? But they didn't really send, they had no police or military force walking around. So all the commoners were, how do you protect yourself from getting robbed or murdered or whatever else? You would hire a samurai, right? You'd hire the samurais and they would defend your family for you from getting robbed and murdered and anything like that. So they kind of filtered the crime. They kind of, I guess you could consider them like their police force originally. Pretty soon the samurai grew so much, they had one super samurai called the shogun, and the shogun was like, you know what, we're just gonna run the country because we already kind of are running the nation. So they're like, okay, we take over. So they had their own capital, and then the emperor had his own capital, which is in Kyoto. The emperor was still allowed to kind of dress up and look like the emperor. He was like the face, but the shogun was actually running the nation with the samurai. Some special things about samurai. So they followed something called the Bushido Code. You might have heard about it. It's just a very, very strict code. They had very strict rules in the samurai. It was something to just kind of keep them on the direct and divine path. Things like what you can and can't do, like honor and stuff like that. You can go on and on about the Bushido Code. That could be its whole topic. But yeah, they follow the Bushido Code, which basically means, hold your honor high, hold your value high, and be a good quality human, basically. Another cool thing about them, whenever they're typically higher class, the low class people were rarely ever samurais. There's a few cases of it that we know about, and typically if you did something really valuable during combat, and it was like, oh wow, you look like an honorable soldier, maybe you could get recruited as a samurai as a lower class citizen. But 90% of the time the samurai were actually just family or clan members passed down. It's like a traditional thing, and yeah, they were very elite soldiers. Top of that, they were very well trained, very versatile, very smart soldiers. They kind of are the full package. Obviously Japan's gonna hype them up in their history books, so who knows how much of this is true, but they sound like the most versatile soldiers in the history of the world. They could do everything. They used longbows, they had short bows, they had small shields that they would use, but not very commonly. And then of course their katanas, which we'll get there. But they were very versatile. They could dual wield the katanas. Two hands on a katana, one hand on a katana with their small shield. They knew how to shoot arrows, and they're typically very, very, very smart soldiers. So yeah, kind of the whole package, kind of like what you dream about is these specialty super soldiers back then. They also influenced the culture a ton in Japan, like art, plays, stuff like that. Japan loved samurais. They were like the golden child, I guess, of Japan. they would do art because of their unique look. They have really cool armor. I feel like most people like how samurais look. They just look like the coolest soldiers ever. So yeah, they influenced the culture and the art a ton in Japan. In Japan, especially the history of Japan, art is the biggest thing. They are huge about art, huge about plays. That was like their main thing, especially because they were pretty sheltered from the outside world and on their own little island. They kind of had to find all their entertainment themselves. So that was like the thing in Japan. And then obviously once they showed it off to other nations that eventually came to trade, like the Dutch and the Americans and stuff, it was also just a really cool thing. It was like, oh wow, look at this art, look at how cool these soldiers look and stuff like that. So on to katanas. I think I might have missed, I don't want to miss anything, but yeah, Bushido code, art, history, samurais, high class citizens, right? Katana. Oh, and they would commit seppuku. It was a pretty famous thing. If they ever got captured or anything like that, how they would commit suicide is they would stab themselves through their stomach and disembowel themselves, and it was called seppuku. It was a very famous suicide tactic, I suppose, out of Japan. It was like a very honorable thing to do. So it's not like a like a scammy thing, at least in them, to get out of it. It was a very honorable as a way to find honor, to prevent from giving information to the enemy or anything like that. Katanas, very special weapon. They ranged, the length was about 24 to 30 inches long. The smiths, katana smiths, they are known as some of the most talented smiths ever. Katanas are one of the hardest weapons in the history to craft. I didn't realize, I mean, obviously I knew it was gonna be hard to craft, but I didn't realize how hard they really were to craft. So how they would do it is they would actually fold the metal and then use a hammer, fold the metal, use a hammer while doing it. Obviously I've never crafted a katana, so I don't know exactly how it's done. And just from reading about it, they would be folding the steel and then hammering it after. And that's what gives it the flexibility and the kind of the shape to it, but while holding a very solid base to the katana for the power and stuff like that. There was only a few katana smiths, and they were very rare, and they're getting more rare throughout the years, obviously, because there's no need for katana anymore typically. But yeah, very talented craftsmen. And why these swords were so special, they were just very flexible, very mobile, very light. Usually like in the Roman Empire and stuff like that, and in any type of Western nation, typically their weaponry was really heavy. It's kind of what it's known for. Same with their armor, but their swords, if you've ever held like one of those ancient swords, they are literally like 30 pounds. It's ridiculous. You're carrying around a giant tree trunk with you. Any type of those long swords. So if you never had held one before, I recommend trying to find a type of place to hold one, because it's really interesting actually how heavy they were. And then you try swinging it around. I'm a guy that works out, and it's not easy. So with that being said, the katana 10 times lighter, very mobile, and it allowed the samurais to be way quicker. And obviously we never saw the samurais fight Romans or Western nations, but man, I would be super interested to watch that, because I could imagine the katana, I don't know how well it would do against Western armor, but with the power that it's said to have and how effective it was against Eastern armor, like Japan and the few Mongols that they did fight before getting drowned in a tornado and stuff, we won't talk about that, they performed really well. And we've looked at like current day, we've obviously tested them against armor, and they perform very well. So I'd be really interested to see an actual Japanese war of samurais versus like the Roman Empire. It'd be something I'd be willing to pay my life to watch. If I could go back in time, no movie, no video game, but going back in time to watch, it'd be absolutely awesome. I'd be really interested to see. And I think I'm taking the Japanese. These samurais are literally ancient super soldiers. They're probably smarter than most of the Romans. They are faster. They are more versatile. Most of the Romans were trained in one specific area. It's like, okay, you're an archer, you're a spearman with a shield, you're a swordsman, etc. Samurais, they did it all. And obviously not every soldier in Japan was a samurai, but the samurais that were, I would just imagine them to be absolutely elite and would be able to dominate other nations. And no other country, especially back then, even knew what a katana was. So if you just put them on a plains and told them to fight, I don't think they would even know what to expect with katanas. So yeah, super cool. Love samurai. Love Japan. I wish I could sit here and talk about it forever, because there's so many topics to talk about in Japan. But yeah, samurais, very honorable soldiers, very important to their history. They influenced Japan more than just their military might, but their arts and crafts, their not television, plays and stuff like that. All that stuff went through samurais because of how well respected they were and how beneficial they were to the nation. And I think it's really interesting. And the katana is probably the face of the samurai, and the samurais are probably the face of Japan. That's why everybody knows them by. Everybody knows what a samurai is. Everybody knows what a katana is. And whenever you think of samurai katana, the first thing you think of is Japan. So super awesome thing. And yeah, love samurais.